She's a one.
Hi everybody, can you hear me? Je m'appelle Pavlo. Je suis founder et CTO d'Instana. Je ne parle pas français. Well, all right. So I just have like 300 slides. So I hope. I mean, I'm the guy who is between you and the food, right? So don't run me over. Give me a chance. I'll make it a little bit shorter. All right. So just some quick information about myself. So I'm one of the founders and CTO of Instana. Instana is a APM solution explicitly built for modern architectures, specifically microservices environments, etc. And we're pretty awesome succeeding with this. This is not the topic of the talk. The topic of the talk is all about the learnings of us being a startup, working with enterprise customers, because our go-to market is explicitly around enterprises. And I want to share some experiences with you. I hope that it's going to be helpful. So, all right, we as Instana have a great product, and I'm pretty sure who in the audience builds product as startup. All right, and I'm absolutely sure you think that it's awesome, right? Of course it is, and this is your right to think that way. And in the beginning, when you start, it's of course, it's like pink unicorns and everything is great, etc., etc. And you go after enterprises because they have the real money and they have the real pain. By the end of the day, any kind of software, you can decide to go after long tail, where it's like, a lot of users, a lot of customers with just a little bit of a peanuts that go in your bank account, or you do the enterprise dance, and that's the main topic of this talk here, because it's when you come to an enterprise, there is a number of questions that will be asked, and the first one is this. Like, who are you? It has different meanings. The thing about that is that as a startup founder, ideally, if you want to shoot after enterprises, you need to have some kind of a track in the enterprise world. It starts with the contacts, because it's going to be pretty expensive to hire all the salespeople who have the contacts. So ideally, in the beginning, you have the contacts, and these people trust you. Also very important, these people have budgets in the area that you want to try to sell them software for, right? So we as an APM solution, we are selling our software to operations, to developers, etc. They have some experience with monitoring, etc., so they kind of have a budget. And this is very important in the beginning, because otherwise it's going to be real hard unless you really have something that is so amazing and so new that they will just simply grab it from your hands. And also, it's very important to be kind of a recognized expert in that particular area. So, as we found it, it was four of us. We had collectively over 50 years of experience in this particular application performance management area. And experience also means context. It also means like understanding the pain of the customer and really speaking their language. That's a very important thing. Well, there is a very interesting learning, because I have, seriously, like 4 years ago, I had zero idea about sales. I still don't understand what marketing is doing. I'm a tech guy. Well, okay, this is not fair. I know more about it than an average person in the meantime. I have deep respect for this activity, but I could not do it myself. And the sales thing is kind of, you're in the middle, because effectively all of the founders are expected to sell. If you're a founder and you say, I'm not a sales guy, totally wrong. You need to go out, help salespeople sell the software, because they have a totally different credit as a founder. But what is interesting about enterprise sales, that was totally new to me. First of all, quota-based sales. who of you knows about this concept? Why you would do that? Like cut stuff in quarters. You don't want to make all the money by the end of the year. Well, of course you want to, but if you cut it in quarters, it gives you the ability to adjust as you go. This is very important. Adjustments can be anything, right? I had to learn about this concept because I am kind of a roadmap owner of the whole product. And then I realized a number of things. First of all, my roadmap doesn't fit the quarter thinking at all. Like, not even close. Because what I think I can deliver 6 months from now is totally irrelevant for the current quarter. The second thing is the enterprises, they don't care about your quarters at all. They think totally different, but they know about your quarters. And what they will do is they will utilize the fact that you need to satisfy the numbers by the end of the quarter to kind of apply pressure, right? Well, this is fair. This is the right. Interestingly, so back in the days as I figured out how this stuff works, I'm a big hockey fan. So and especially North American hockey, and they have this weird playoffs going on after the regular season where it's actually totally different sports. And then as I saw how this sales cycle works, by the end of the quarter, I just coined our procedure to work like I called it the playoffs. So we go into the playoffs mode and we're close, 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 close. That's very important. Now, 4 years later, I mean, 3.5 years into sales, it's actually a continuous Super Bowl over the whole year. So effectively, what used to be like the last week of the quarter now it's all year long because you need to be closing all the time. That's very stressful for a product organization because the product organization still needs kind of, longer thinking, longer term thinking, etc. Oh yeah. Early deals eventually turn into pain. Well, in the beginning, you want to close customers who are kind of multipliers, right? You want names, and these names, you want to use them for marketing sales purposes to tell the others how awesome you are. But then you will have to make commits to them in the beginning when your product is still maturing, etc., about the stuff that you probably will never want to implement later. But these things will last forever. And you will have to make decisions. Do you want to churn them later or do you want to satisfy them? Because, I mean, the first customers are the best customers. We personally love all of our customers, but the first one is where the heart bleeding is. And we still deliver features that we promised them in the beginning, where I would say these days, yeah, I don't know, maybe we should not be doing this, but we still do it. And that's very important to understand because you have a backlog that is completely independent from what you see currently important for you and for your product and for the market itself. Speaking of products, of course you want your product to be as generic as possible because you want to sell it to different customers in different environments, etc. So you should not be implementing continuous one-offs, but you will. Especially in the early days when you probably don't have the 100% foundation or all of the features outlined and implemented, you will be doing one-offs. That's very normal. The interesting thing about the one-offs, they don't hurt immediately when you do them. They hurt like 2 years later because somebody discovers, oh my God, it works totally different. Oh, and by the way, it has changed completely for the customer we implemented this for back then. So yeah, generic approach is very important, but be realistic, especially for the enterprises, because these guys have. I mean, you go in there and it's a totally different picture all the time. There is no the enterprise. It's like completely different story, and the reasons for that start in the technology over politics, into anything irrational that you can think of. Who's in the like? Who just found it? Who just started off here in this audience? Do you guys, if it's not you, do you guys have extreme introverts in the team, like real good engineers, but people who don't want to talk to people? The problem is it is hard because of course you want the best talent in the beginning, but the best talent in my space, in the engineering space, normally tends to be either arrogant or just introvert. The problem with this is you need, when you go after enterprises, you need to talk to them. Their expectation is when something is broken, you get on the call. And you want your best talent to speak to them. The reasons for that are, first of all, they can solve the problems faster because they know the tech underneath. And the second is, of course, you want them to learn from the discussions with the target customers, from their pains for your own product. Now, if you have people who are not talking to customers, you need a whole organization around them to talk to customers. And you cannot grow this organization fast enough. So my personal experience, you need to have a good balance if you go after enterprises already from the beginning, to have people who are at least not hesitating to speak in public to somebody or on the phone. Well, the other problem, the other challenge that we have seen, and I bet it's normal, but it was a learning. I mean, as again, I'm a tech guy. I'm a very bad manager myself, and sometimes I don't even know what management means. To me, it's like babysitting, and you can ask my kids. I'm a very bad babysitter. So, right, but you need managers. You need people who manage situations, who manage emergencies, who manage all of these things. And this is a real big dilemma because you want people with this talent to really stay calm in very complex situations that will appear in any kind of enterprise. Even if you deliver to them, I don't know, like a piece of bread whatsoever, it doesn't matter. There will be some exceptional stuff all the time. But you cannot afford them in the beginning. They are pretty expensive. So people who can manage especially situations or do some kind of consulting activity, they are pretty expensive. So it's important. That was a great benefit for us because we firmed out of a consulting company. The 3 or 4 founders have a long track of not only selling the APM into the APM space or dealing with performance problems with IT systems, but also being consultants. And that is extremely helpful because you know how to talk to the customer, you know how to calm them down, etc., etc. I can only recommend. It's very, very important and crucial, actually. As I said, none of the enterprises is the same. Well, let me put it that way. They all think they are different. When you have a long-term experience working with enterprises, you will know that the pains are always the same. It's sometimes around the budget, sometimes it's around politics, sometimes it's just around bullshit whatsoever. But a lot of technology relevant stuff that is happening there is actually the same thing. They run the databases in the same way. They run applications and design applications the same way. It's always same people who go from one company to the other to design software and run the software. So there is no real novelty in that, right? Even with every new approach, where they are a little bit slower adapting it than anybody else, it's always kind of the same thing, and they always opt out for standardization. But still, they think they are totally different, and this totally different means that no matter what you try to define for them SLA wise, like here's the agreement that we want to do with you, here's the way of work, you need to provide a ticket when something is broken whatsoever. They completely ignore it. If something hurts, they will get a manager on the call, will kick them in the ass, and will make them work. You need to be prepared for that because that's overstraining for any kind of small organization because you continuously are doing stuff that is outside of your product development if you're a product company. Innovation is a very cool thing. In the beginning, when you design a product, you're all innovative. Of course, because otherwise you will not start the company. But with every major enterprise deal, your innovation will struggle against daily business, day by day stuff. You will have to deliver promises. You will have to deal with their pains. You will have to deal with their exceptions. You will have to figure out what's not working network wise whatsoever. I mean, we have a very special kind of product, of course. It goes everywhere in the infrastructure, etc. But I guess this is, this integrational part is relevant for everybody. And this is important that you provide as much innovation as you want before you make the large major enterprise deals. Because after that, you just need to be careful. I mean, it's not that you stop innovating. You should not be stopping innovating. But the operative aspect always wins because you need to make the money quarterly. You need to deliver the numbers by the end of the year. You need to actually feed your staff because you grow the team and people, they want perspectives and they want money. So effectively, the whole machine is already working against the innovation. So at some point, you will have to make some hard decisions how to run the innovation further. So there is a good concept. So this is how we, for example, operate, and that's actually very common for a lot of companies. You kind of break into the house through the garage door. So if you picture that in your head, there is something real innovative going on in that enterprise, and these people are, they are allowed to do anything freehand whatsoever. And of course, they are willing to pick up the new ideas, the new software, etc., etc. You give them that, and then they try to grow you together with you into the larger account itself. But among IT architects for many, many years around the enterprises, there is a saying that when you try to grab a banana, you pull the banana and the gorilla jumps out and has a whole jungle in the back. That's how enterprises work, because you get in, then you open the door and oh my God, it's a desert. It's so much stuff that you need to deliver that is completely outside of what you were thinking is your own product. Let's start with integrating with our LDAP. For those of you who are halfway technical, I hope you hear my pain. So be prepared that once you get this candy, you will have to deal with the whole gorilla with the jungle that is in the bag. And there's a lot of stuff that is totally irrational as well, including politics again. Scale. I'm pretty sure any of who is actually a kind of a CTO or a VP engineering or whatsoever. All right. I bet your platform scales massively from the beginning, right? All right. Well, I mean, unless there is a proof it does, it doesn't, right? So, and when the customers kick in, it's all different. You will be facing stuff that you couldn't have predicted anyway. But you need to, and that's a good thing, you need to think in massive scale from the beginning, really early. Because the thing is, it's not a linear growth. They will not give you a chance to kind of, oh yeah, let's add like 2 or 3 more boxes to this whole setup. No, it's like a step function. It's just boom. You make a major deal. In our case, they come with like 10,000 machines that need to be monitored. And it's like, oh my God, what's that? Oh yeah, well, we didn't test for it, right? So, and then you kind of catching up, and then you're on this flat ground again, and the next deal is like boom. So be prepared from the beginning. You need all the mechanisms in place. By the way, it's not only tech, it's also organizational scale. That's very important. A team of 4 people cannot serve a target account that has like 1,000 users. An interesting story here, APM, Application Performance Management, historically is a field that actually serves 2, 3, 4 people in the organization. It's like experts who can solve performance problems. That's what normal APM delivers to them. We, on the other side, from the beginning, we have built our system to be democratic, so access to the APM information is provided to everybody in the organization in a similar way. We have customers with like 800 users. I mean, we are APM experts from the beginning, but we never thought that it's going to be 800 users. And they do all different stuff that you actually didn't even expect they will be doing. So it is important because, I mean, all of them, by the way, they never go through a single dedicated channel. They all write you tickets on Zendesk all together, independently. It's independent teams, which means that you have the same ticket 6 times. Think of scale, right? Somebody needs to process this whole stuff, right? Yeah, it's a continuous struggle. Who delivers a SaaS solution here in this room? Okay, who of you has to deliver this on-premise too? Just a few. Is that painful? Yeah, it is painful. The thing is, the first thing is, I'm a big cloud fan, by the way. I really love this whole direction. I'm not a fanboy. I just love kind of standardization, etc., etc. I cannot use one single cloud technology. Like DynamoDB from AWS, I cannot use it. The reason for that is I cannot run it on premise. So I either have to implement everything twice, or we go after very, very, basic low-level stuff. The basic low-level stuff you need to manage all on your own. And the problem is when the setup is sophisticated or large and whatsoever, you need to run it in the target account. It's not like you give them the software and it runs. When the software is quite complex, you face people who never actually operated on this scale. And you got to teach them everything. You need to actually hold hands, etc., etc. It's quite complicated. It's even and delivering. I mean, the expectation is I click the button and the thing is installed. When this installation goes over more machines to just one, this doesn't work. This procedure, and it's really quite complicated. And also selecting technology with a SaaS and in parallel on-premise in mind is quite a challenge. Takes a lot of time. Pay-per-use model. We have a great pay-per-use model. We defined it like 3.5 years ago. The founders over beers, we said, that this is going to be awesome. What do you think? How many customers are paying per use with us? Just a wild guess. Anybody? Zero. Right. Yeah. The reason for that is very simple. The model is flexible. They all agree. That's perfect. But it doesn't fit the budget thinking. They need to fix the budget for the next 3 years. And there is no way you can kind of have this flexibility, at least in our case. So it is also very important to understand that the budgets and pay-per-use model might really compete. And you will end up doing any kind of discounts and kind of flat rates, etc., etc., etc. That's just reality that we also didn't expect. We would do a great job with this pay-per-use model. I really love it. When you're a product company, one advice: don't do consulting. You will have to do it when it's around the deal, but don't do a general consulting. Just to give you an example, we're an APM solution for microservices. I don't go to my customer and sell them microservices. I don't convince them to use microservice oriented architecture, whatever. I already assume they have it, or I built on what they already have. The problem is that you need to take care of your product and that people love the product. You need to learn for the product. When you start doing consulting, it's all continuous one-offs. And actually, you should not be teaching them the basic stuff. You need to learn from their pains and then apply them, the learnings, to your product to make this job simple. But oh my God, please don't sell them cloud strategies. Don't sell them SaaS strategies. Don't sell them security strategies unless you're a security startup, because it will not work. They all have their own opinion. You're too small. They will ignore what you say. But all this together are just learnings. We love enterprises. Enterprises are the best customers. There is some interesting reasons for me to say that. For example, they are slow and they allow me to adjust the pace, because they are not desiring stuff every single day. So every single day in their case means weeks, months, maybe quarters. So we still have time to adjust. And They have every single enterprise you will address has all the pain that you can imagine, all different pains. So the more of it you can solve, the better the sale. What also is specific to enterprises, they have a long tradition of buying software. They actually normally prefer buy over make, which as it makes it for a product company, not a consulting company, but a product company, very, very comfortable to work with them because there's a foundation. There is, they used to work with enterprise sales. They have procurement, etc., etc. Right. And that's what I wanted to say today. Any questions? I mean, I know there is food. I can already smell it. So, do you guys have any questions?
Sure.
What is the worst example you have that you made as a enterprise seller from a politics point of view? Because when you do enterprise, it's all about politics. It's not anymore about the product or the added value. It's all about product. What's the most horrible mistake you've made?
Mistake we made or the worst situation I've seen in the field?
The one you prefer?
I'll do the latter because it's exciting. So I was at this customer. It's a huge customer, and they are about to buy our software and roll it out for like hundreds of thousands of boxes, etc. And I'm talking to this particular group who are 4 people out of 100,000 in the IT, and they are supposed to be running my solution for all of the company. And they gave me a situation. So we have some. So our solution is very specific. We have something called traces, and traces can have some data about the software that is being executed. And what they told me is, and we also capture errors, right? So erroneous situations. I'm trying to abstract this also for non-technical people. The thing is, what they told me is it's critical to show the reason for an error if it's not separated in terms of visibility among teams, because one team can use the information that another team has errors to politically attack them inside of the company. And I was like, what? Are you serious? No, but they are serious. A lot of stuff going on, and they have to deal with that day by day. And this is so you effectively end up implementing a very fine-grained role-based access control just for the sake of stuff like this. We did it. Yeah, we had to do it. I mean, we had to do it. In the beginning, it was pretty coarse-grained, but then we had to add more and more and more of this stuff. It's a double-sided sword because the problem is every single LDAP or role-based system in every enterprise is completely screwed up. Completely, it's unmanageable. Nobody knows how it works. Nobody knows what it contains, and you're kind of in the middle of it.
That's about it. Yep. Uh,
How are you managing release cycles of your software? Because what you told us before was that you have different customers that maybe have different needs. You developed some stuff on purpose for them. So how do you align all these different developments also with the policies of the companies that usually have, I don't know, quarterly release upgrades, etc.?
All right, so that's a great question. Thank you. We are a SaaS first company. This means that the term release is effectively artificial. If we want to, we could release 100 times a day. And our own architecture is kind of, call it microservices, whatever. Things are decoupled and can be deployed separately. But we had to adjust this for the reality of the on-premise specifically, because in the on-premise situation, they don't want to upgrade like once a day or 100 times a day. Plus, you kind of need to give them packages that are all versioned, etc., because they put this in their own satellite and yada, yada, yada. So our strategy right now, and it's still under adjustment, but our strategy right now is that we serve our own SaaS as we go, but we kind of bundle things to bi-weekly deliverables that are large enough, unless it's bug fixes that can be rolled out anytime. Bi-weekly for SaaS. So it's also, we need to be fair. We have such a complex product. We need to give our users the ability to learn. If you release features as you go, they don't have time to adjust and to train themselves, right? So we kind of bundle them. And for the on-premise, it's actually up to them. So every single release, it's like one release behind the SaaS release. We have a release for on-premise. The reason for that is that we want to mature this in our own SaaS before we package it for on-premise. And so we wait. But they can also upgrade like bi-weekly if they like. It's going to be a challenge at some time, I guess, that some enterprises are so slow that they wouldn't upgrade like any more often than every 6 months or something. Well, for that, we actually have just right now, we have announcement of critical releases where you just say, okay, you need to do it. And we are more forward thinking. So we are also explaining to the on-premise customers that we're SaaS driven. This means that we don't want to support versions like 3 years back. 3, 4 maybe at the same time is the maximum that we would go with. And we decoupled our architecture is kind of, there is part running in the fields, it's agents, and there is backend. So they are in the sense decoupled that they are still compatible over months. So there is no breaking if you don't upgrade. Does that make sense?
Very last question. Yeah.
Can you repeat it, please, for everybody?
How do you handle the pricing question at Instana? Because you were saying the price per user don't work, and on your website I can see a price per user on the pricing page.
Well, it's price per use. It's not the user. So first of all, Instana doesn't charge for users. So it doesn't matter if you're alone in your company using our product or if it's 1,000 people. There is no difference. But the pay per use is something that we actually use more as a foundation for calculation, because then people can say, okay, hey, there is we work with some kind of a term that is virtual host, because a real host these days doesn't make any sense, especially when you're serverless, whatever, right? So it's kind of a bundle of other things, of other components that we bundle together, and they have one price. And upon that, I mean, our salespeople know all these tricks. There's one of these guys here in the front line, and we have basically like 2 major versions. There is one cheaper version where you don't get too much benefit in terms of application monitoring, and there is more expensive version that is all about application monitoring. So we kind of make it simple. The thing is, why I said that is that by the end of the day, when you make an enterprise deal, we use that pay per use as the calculation foundation, and then all these discounts, all these weird discounts for friendships, for whatsoever, are applied. And then you make this deal for 1 or 3 years, and then you let it go like that, and then you hope that you can expand later. Does that make sense? All right.
Thank you very much, Pavlo, and thank you very much for making it to Paris as well. So
Thanks for having me. It's a great place. Always a pleasure to come here.
thanks a lot.
Thanks.
She's a one.